Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research, and I have the pleasure today of the company of Ann Hand, who is the CEO of SLGG Gaming. It's a $30 million company listed on the NASDAQ last year. And you really have a front row seat into how this pandemic has affected the industry. And obviously, we've seen gaming really outperform the stock market. What has been the impact specifically on your company?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty significant. And, it's a dire time in so many ways in the world. But the beauty of gaming is that it's actually a way for people to stay connected to each other, their friendships, as they're, in shelter in place. Through the month of April, we were at close to 2 million registered users. So we almost doubled our registered user base. And equally exciting, we had done 120 million view or impressions just in the first 4 months. So we did more in 4 months than we did in all of last year. And that surge has continued to explode. One thing I often try to explain to investors is the significant shift had already occurred pre-COVID. Mm-hmm. Gaming is already bigger than TV. It was already 3 times the global film box office. It is the dominant form of entertainment for Gen Z and millennials. And the thing is, they're not growing out of it anymore. Gaming's becoming a lifelong interest. It's becoming multi-generational. And so we're just at the very early days of thinking about the way that we can structure recreational leagues and team structures around the games that these gamers love and start to really monetize this passionate engaged audience.
What are your thoughts on whether this can continue past COVID-19? Because obviously it makes sense why you would see a surge right now. People don't have a lot of options and other things to do. Is there a way to build on what you've done? And I also wanted to bring into the conversation the idea that, we just saw this purchase of Madden Sports. Their game has been purchased by EA for another 5 years.
The thing that's so cool about esports right now in this moment is with physical live sports on hold, there's all these virtual sports that are still happening. And sure, there's games like Fortnite and League of Legends that if you're not a gamer, you may not really identify with. But if you're a football fan, you may not play Madden, but if you watched a Madden competition, esports competition online, you'd get it, right? It's football.
And people have a real void right now with no sports happening. And you don't know when they're going to restart, really precisely.
Exactly. So I think the opportunity for Super League, because we're about mainstream of esports, is really about focusing on esports that are extensions of other traditional sports, because that's where the audience, the fans, can really jump in, whether they're just players or watchers. A good example is what we're doing for Topgolf right now. So Topgolf, a fantastic retail partner, wonderful retail experience. How do they stay in touch right now with their retail member base when their stores are closed? Well, they happen to own also a video game called World Golf Tour. So what we do is we run tournaments for them. Now, all these players are participating from the comfort of their home. That's touching a few hundred players. That's not the big idea for Topgolf. The big idea is that we can provide them a live stream broadcast of the game back to all their digital channels. And now that's created a viewing opportunity for their hundreds of thousands of retail members. So that's a way for them to stay connected with golfing fans during this time. We think the applications for what we can do around traditional sport, esport extensions, the opportunities are infinite. And it's kind of like COVID is giving us a window to accelerate those conversations.
Now, SLGG has been challenged like other companies during this time too. I know the Washington Post reported that you took the PPP loan, about $1.2 million. How do you rationalize that, and how do you talk about that with investors in light of trying to get more investors' interest at a time like this?
Yeah, I mean, we were very transparent on our earnings call with investors that we had put in those applications. I believe that those loans were actually made for companies like us. The perception that because we're public, that we're awash with cash, that we're profitable, it was funny when we were making the decision to go public. A lot of what was driving us was that we had been sitting there as a private company. We believed that the public markets wanted to invest and participate in the esports economy, and there were no options for them on NASDAQ. And that's because it was all being held with private investors They were very exclusive opportunities. So the everyday person didn't get to play in the economy. So we felt that we were doing a great thing by getting onto a public listing and presenting that opportunity. You know, a lot of investors these days are gamers. And so all of that said, we're obviously a company that still has an operating loss.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in the early stages of our growth. I know that, when Amazon and others went on NASDAQ when they were young, they were loss-making companies too. And I think NASDAQ was kind of built for that small cap company. All these unicorns that come in overvalued, and if they're extracting big PPP loans when they're sitting on piles of cash, sure, that doesn't seem fair. But we're a tiny cap company, and we felt that we were actually working right within the target zone of what that offering was for.
I want to bring up your partnerships with Chinese companies. Tencent is obviously a behemoth. Wanda, another behemoth in China. How has the impact been, or what has the impact been of your relationships with those companies? Because on the one hand, Tencent is having you bring their product to the U.S. In the case of Wanda, I believe you're doing more in China. So I'm just wondering how it's affecting your ability to get into the Chinese market.
Yeah. It's, we said early on when there were tariff tensions with China several months ago, I was like, I think gaming's recession proof. I think it's tariff proof, as well. It's proven to be somewhat pandemic proof, right? There's over 1 billion of those gamers are in China. So first, you're right, Tencent, largest game publisher by far. They own tons of fantastic game titles. And we're very proud to have operated with a lot of their different top tier titles. And correct that a lot of that has been focused so far in the North America market, but we're excited about the partnership and how we can bring more countries into Super League with their great game titles and reach. As far as Wanda goes, my hope is that when the world is ready to return to retail, we'll be ready to start to introduce Super League to that very passionate Chinese gamer audience. But in the meantime, there might be some ways that we can continue to do some market testing in a pure digital world, just the same way everything else with Super League in North America now operates purely digital.
Thanks so much for your time, Ann Hand, there, the CEO of SLGG. And if you would like to see more content like this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. That's all for now.